The earth just cannot handle the sheer number of humans who live here. Something has to give. And I believe that it's up to us who have lived a good life to make sure that our children will have the opportunity to live good lives too. I have lived a good life.
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 We've been talking about Agenda 21 on this program for some time now, and I always say it sounds like something, a spoof out of an Austin Powers movie, not something real, but it is a real project of the United Nations, and a scary one at that. It's led to this book, Agenda 21 by Glenn Beck. It is a fiction book, but it is based in fact. Glenn Beck joins us now from his studios in Dallas, Texas. Glenn, you've probably done more on this to bring it to the light of a sizable audience than anybody I know. What first sparked your interest in Agenda 21?
I felt exactly like you did. When you first heard it, you're like, come on, that's conspiracy. Because, I mean, who names something Agenda 21? I mean, when I flew into the Seattle airport one night, and the Department of Homeland Security actually paints their helicopters, I'm not kidding, black. And I'm like, come on, guys. Really, you've got actual black helicopters. So I didn't believe it. And we started doing our research, and it's so overwhelmingly out in the open, you can't believe that nobody else is looking. And so we talked about it when I was on Fox. And Harriet Park is one of the women who was watching our show. And I said, we have to get this out in every format we can, because who's going to read 2,000 pages from the UN? And so she actually started writing this book, and we put it together and finished it to try to get it out to as many people as we possibly can, because it is truly terrifying, truly terrifying.
And we'll get into some specifics in a minute. Let's remind the audience what the United Nations defines Agenda 21 as, because it is fairly all-encompassing. And this is right from their preamble of their Agenda 21 document. Agenda 21 is a comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations systems, governments, and major groups in every area in which human impacts on the environment. Based on their own definition, I would say that...
Tell me, Brian, what on God's green earth do humans not impact? That statement, that last sentence is so critical for people to understand. That means every aspect of your life, from start to finish, everything you impact the environment on.
And as you read through the document, and you're right, it is long, it is boring, it is tedious, but it's important for somebody to know and then to spread it out there. They've got a chapter on education that talks about finding ways to make the populace know that this is the way that we need to be going and prepare them to accept the decisions of the leaders. And I found similar things on the federal government of Canada's own website, similar statements. In fact, here's an interesting thing I did. I did a Google advanced search of Agenda 21 and sustainable development, those terms, versus free market and free enterprise. Guess what shows up more? So this stuff is everywhere. What's the most bothersome to you? To me, it is that the United Nations is doing an end run around national governments and working directly with local governments to push this.
Bingo. It's exactly what I was going to say. That this is, I mean, they are working with our national governments, gangbusters. And in the United States, it was George H.W. Bush, not the last one, but George H.W. Bush that brought this into our system nationally. He started when he gave the speech, we have an opportunity now for a new world order. That raised the hair on my neck when he said that. But this is exactly what he meant. He started implementing Agenda 21 into our federal bureaucracy. But what's more hair-raising, and also the positive of this, is that it is in all of our local governments. I don't care how small of a town you live in. If you go and you look for Agenda 21 in your town, you will find it.
Okay, but here's the problem.
Everywhere.
Here's the problem that people find, and this is why I appreciate what you did on the website that you've got to go with the book is that you said you might not find the words Agenda 21, but you'll find these buzzwords. Sustainable development is the main one. What else should people be looking out for if they want to know if this plan to, let's talk about what Agenda 21 does. They want to reshape consumption patterns, meaning they want to change what we eat, what we buy, what we use, how we use it. They want to change how we live. They want us living like you used to in New York, in big, tall high-rises, and forget about a little acreage outside the city.
Yeah, you won't be able to. It's all about sustainable development, sustainable projects, sustainable earth, anything that revolves around, believe it or not, like bike pathways. Cities that they want to get rid of the cars. New York is doing a big thing right now where they're just eliminating lanes one by one on the street until eventually you just won't have a car anymore. You look for things on protected areas and new zoning laws. They're going into farming communities and they're changing the zoning. And you won't even know it until you go sell your farm. But they will say, you know what, this is no longer zoned for farming. Once you sell, it will no longer be zoned for farming, let's say half of your acreage, because of it's a wetland or it's this land or it's a wilderness area.
Where I live in eastern Ontario, up the Ottawa Valley, the bobolink is not a natural bird. It's an invasive species. And farmers are prohibited from cutting their own hay if there's bobolinks nesting in there. They've been told, no, you just got to leave the crop. There's a bird in there.
Do you know what they're saying is an unsustainable human activity? This will blow your mind. Tillage.
Tillage, as in plowing the fields?
Plowing the fields. It's an unsustainable human activity that has to be stopped according to the United Nations. Tillage. Well, how do you grow food without tillage? This is some of the most insane things you've ever seen in your life. And when you talked about, Brian, when you read that about education, where they say we have to get people to the point to where they accept this, that's what this book is really all about. After the world has accepted it, what does it look like? There is no private ownership after Agenda 21. Private ownership is unsustainable. There is no private land. It's unsustainable. There are about 3/4 of the United States of America are human no-go zones. Look up the maps on the UN website.
The rewilding.
It's insane.
Okay.
You're not allowed as a human to go on there to protect the animals. And so they're moving all of the people into the cities, where they can control and we'll live the way they tell us to live. The days of having a farm, the days of having a little bit of land outside of the city, those days are numbered if we don't stop Agenda 21.
Because you mentioned the family farm, I'll leave you with this, then we'll go to break and come back and talk more about the book. Another crazy thing from where I live, they've actually told people that have family farms outside of the city, you can't cut off an acre to build a house for your kids for when they grow up. You're just not allowed to do it because we don't want more houses in rural areas. They say it's to protect the farmland, but it's also to stop people from using their own land. Glenn, look,
exactly right.
Let's come back in a minute and get into what the future looks like, the bleak future that you and Harriet Parks have predicted with Agenda 21. Stick around, more to come.